Ryan Cowden, Vice President of Player Personnel for the New England Patriots. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us. I know it's been a long night for you.
Oh, that's okay. It's great. Appreciate you having me. It's good to see you guys. And hello, I guess, as some of you haven't actually met in person yet with everything going on.
Yeah, so it's Mike Dussault, Evan Lazar, Paul Perillo, myself, Fred Kirsch. I'll just start it out. When this night started out, did you know you were going to go all offense?
I think that the great thing about the draft is you can always have a plan, but ultimately the draft creates situations where you have to react. I don't think you ever go in saying, "Man, we're gonna hammer this out on one side of the ball or the other." The key is following your board, trusting the board, and leading yourself to the picks based off where you've evaluated players. You never think I'm going to go heavy on this side. So it just sometimes works out that way.
It just turned out that way. Yep.
Yeah, Ryan, I wanted to ask you just about this running back group. We've been talking about them all spring. Everyone talked about how there's going to be good players from top of the draft with Genty all the way into tomorrow. How did you guys land on Henderson and make him your guy out of that big, impressive group?
Sure, it is an impressive group, and I think with TreVeyon's been a really explosive player his whole career at Ohio State. I know there's been times in his career where he's worked in tandem with other backs, but I think one of the things that jumps out is his ability to flip the field, his ability to create explosives. I think this year he took a huge step in his pass protection. You'll find some evidence of him on tape, not afraid to deliver a blow, to play square. And I think over his career, he's grown as a player. He's gone through some adversity in his life. He's dealt with some stuff on the field, off the field, just that's calloused him. And I think this year he was just a guy that he's a real matchup problem. And I think when he's on the field, defenses have to account for him.
Ryan, the next pick you guys made was Kyle Williams, the wide receiver. What specifically attracted you guys to him? And what about his skill set did you guys like?
Yeah, so I think when you take a look at Kyle, there's an explosive, dynamic playmaker element to his game. I think if you look over the last 2 years, he played with Cam Ward last year after transferring over from UNLV to Washington State and played with Cam last year. I think Cam probably heavily tried to recruit him to go to Miami as well. But, Kyle stayed, and this year he had a great year. I think he ended up somewhere around close to 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns. And I think when you watch what he does and the way he runs routes, and there's a suddenness to his game. And I think as receivers, one of the biggest things their job to do is we always say a couple things, right? One's get open and the other's catch it. And I think Kyle, when you look at the get open phase, Kyle has some unique skills physically to really create windows for the quarterback to throw to him.
Do you see a little versatility there in terms of his alignment? Can he go inside, outside maybe a little bit, or do you like him just as a slot?
No, I think actually probably Kyle, I don't ever want to try to pigeonhole guys. I think the biggest thing is playing receiver. And I know that sounds like a very generic idea, but I think when you say he's an inside guy, he's an outside guy, well, formations dictate a lot of different things. And sometimes outside guys, you go one side for a matchup, or then you get into saying, what do you want certain plays to look like? What are you going to ask from those roles? I think Kyle does not, his physical skills don't limit him to either inside, outside, any of that stuff, in my opinion. So,
Ryan, what can you tell us about Jared Wilson and, with Garrett Bradbury obviously on the roster already, how do you kind of envision that center position looking right now?
So it falls in, and Jared's a young player, stepped in this year, his first year to start in the SEC, had a good year. Obviously, everybody can point to some of the testing athletically, what's in his body, what he's capable of. And I think he's a player it's just kind of scratching the surface. Speaking to the guys on our team, we have a bunch of guys, or a handful of guys that, will compete at that center position. And I think Jared falls into that mix. I think anytime you're trying to do this in the draft, you're always trying to create competition. And I think if we don't do that, then it's a flaw on our part to create as much competition as possible across the board. And I think we just see that there's a lot of upside to Jared's game. We have some veteran guys that, we just envision those guys competing. And as you guys know with Coach Vrabel, and I really think the way it should be, competition across the board is what's going to bring out the best of all of us. And I think he'll just add to that room.
Do you think he has any flexibility to play some guard, or do you guys see him as a center-only prospect?
He has some experience playing guard. I I think, again, that's one of those kind of similar to the receiver part. Anytime we, try to take offensive linemen, you would love the versatility, right? You don't want as many guys being stuck into one spot, whether that's how it factors into your game day stuff, how you can manipulate stuff in practice, how you can work through injuries. Jared has experience playing guard. Obviously started this year playing center. So I think we would look at both those things, and we'll end up doing ultimately what's best to get the best 5 in his rotation, however we see fit.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to work. I know you got to restack the board. Get ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow's all defense, right? I'm only.
Well, yeah, you want to just counter that by saying defense, right?
Right.
It is, though. Tomorrow's exciting. I think everybody does get caught up into, the first round, and rightfully so, and then tonight. And I think, fortunate for me, I think this is my 26th draft, and I think the fun part is tomorrow. And not only is it with the draft selections, it's what happens after the draft. There's an organic part to scouting that happens after the draft, and there's a lot of work by our staff. I've been impressed with the college staff, the pro staff over my couple months here, the time they put in, and just really excited to see them kind of go to work tomorrow through the post draft. That's where you can make a difference, and I'm excited to be able to do that tomorrow with this group.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Okay.